Hello and welcome to another episode of Talk to the Doctor. I'm here today with Aaron Jessee, drone pilot extraordinaire, and we're here to just discuss all things Aaron. So what's happening, mister?
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Doing
Stoked
really
to be
good.
here.
Awesome. Really good. Really stoked to see you. Thanks for coming in. So you know what I want to do? I want to jump right into, like, where did it all start for you? You know, like when you were a Grom, like what was that moment that you look back and go, this was kind of a banner moment that, you know, how my life went. What you know, we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in an action sports family, surfing, skateboarding, all that kind of stuff, and I just was always drawn to cameras. And I wanted to have a camera in my hand, and I wanted to have somebody film me and me film someone else. And so finally got a camera pretty early on when I was about 11.
How old? Okay, 11.
11 years old. And we were living just in San Clemente right here off Hermosa. And
Let me ask real quick. So you're 11 when you kind of started. How old are you now? Let's get a perspective.
I turned 35 next month.
Okay. So yeah, quite a while since
Yeah.
you. So anyway, moving forward, so you're, be 35 next month. When you were 11, literally 24 years ago, you got your first
That's
camera.
crazy to think that.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
And you got your first camera. And what kind of camera was that?
It was a Canon GL2. It had the handle on the top, a microphone. And me and my buddy, Tyler Quigley, we'd go, he was a skateboarder. I was a surfer. He'd shoot me surfing. I'd shoot him skateboarding. It was kind of like this mutually beneficial relationship. And,
Cool.
And yeah, we were just living over by Pipes Cafe and cruising around. And, you know, he was a phenomenal skateboarder. And I just was always having a camera in my hand, and we would skate all over town and get clips, and then we'd go home and learn how to put it onto the computer to then cut it into some sort of storyline and find our favorite song and make little music videos. And
Sick.
it was so fun.
That's a great start. Yeah. So then as you look, you know, let's move so there you were then. What do you see as another banner moment in the trajectory of you becoming what you are today? How that developed like that, the next stage?
So I went on a Mormon mission to Russia.
Damn.
So I took a little
Whoa.
gap right there from when I was 19 to 21, went on my mission, and I took a camera with me still just for photos. And
What part of Russia?
I was in Moscow.
Damn.
Yeah.
What year was that?
That was 2009 to 2011. Just, yeah, cruising
Wow.
around Moscow, talking Russian. And
Let me hear a little bit of something in Russian. Say, talk to the doctor in Russian if you can.
Говори со мной, доктор, врач.
That's amazing.
Я очень рад быть здесь сегодня.
Сегодня.
Yeah, that's today.
Today. Сегодня.
Yeah, сегодня.
I've always thought that language is so guttural and strong sounding. You know, it's cool to be. Not too many people I know can speak Russian, so
Honestly,
it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, when I was learning Russian, my mouth hurt so much because, like, English, you'd speak English in the front of your mouth. It's very, like,
Yes.
tip of the tongue, teeth in the lips kind of thing. And Russian is, like, in the back of your mouth. Like, you could see a Russian speaking, and you couldn't read their lips because they're just...
Yeah, but it's all back here.
Yeah, and you're like, what
the hell
is
did he
that guy
say?
saying? And so it was, that was a learning curve living in
amazing.
Russia. Like after 6 months, I was still like, I think I'm starting to get this, but it was a tough language. But
In your Russian experience in any way, shape, or form, was there anything to do with waves?
no, not
Because
at all.
you know, since then, a couple people, someone we know from town went to Russia. Wasn't it a goofy?
I think Christian Walk might have gone
Christian
to Russia.
Walk,
He
but who's it?
went to like the northern part. I think the Arctic Ocean or
Yeah,
something
there's
like
some
that.
surf
Yeah.
and some coastline there. You'd have to
Yeah.
think it's a huge, you know, there's a lot of coastline, but who knows?
And
Probably
the
a lot
east-
of perfect waves there, unridden, super freezing.
Yeah.
But so anyway, you know, not much surfing history for us in Russia, but so the Russia experience, and then that led you to.
So then I came back from, and I took a camera with me. It was still shooting, but it was kind of like this gap where I started out with mini DV. If people know what that is, it's like a little cassette tape you put in your camera. You get 60 minutes on there. And once the tape's done, you pull it out and you put a new one in. And so I went on my mission, and I was still using that camera before I left. And I went on my mission, came back, and cameras had changed. They were like, all of a sudden, everyone's talking about a DSLR. And I was like, what the
heck
what's
is
a DSLR? And like, everything's going on this little microchip. And I was so confused. And so fast forward, like I come back from my mission, and then I go out to BYU, Hawaii, and I'm living in Laie close to the North Shore, Kahuku area. And I get this roommate who's just a crazy camera freak. He just knows how to edit. He knows how to shoot. He's got all these crazy lenses. And we just became best friends. And he would come and shoot me surfing. And then we'd go home, and we were literally roommates, like slept next to each other in this tiny room in Laie. And it was crazy. And we had this projector, and we'd project onto our only empty wall in our room, and he'd be at his computer, and I'd just be watching and be like, oh, he's using Premiere Pro, Adobe, and he's kind of dialing things in, and and he was a perfectionist. He was so cool. And so then it kind of sparked an interest, and I was like, I hadn't thought of video as a career. I just thought of it as like, I love to do it.
Fun, hobby. Yeah. You didn't see money. You thought of, oh man, I got to figure out where to get a job, but you like doing this on the side,
I just always thought like, oh, I'm going to be I don't know, work in business, or I'm going to be a lawyer or something. But I was going to school at the time for entrepreneurship.
Where?
And at BYU.
Okay.
And so I was, studying and I had a professor that was like, hey, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you don't need this. Like, if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, you need this. But if you really want to go out there, just go out and fail, is basically what he said.
Mm-hmm.
And then also disclaimer, I kind of got kicked out of BYU for having, my hair was too long. I left with a 3.8 GPA. I loved school. I didn't do that well in high school.
But you then kicked into gear at BYU, but you were a little freaky with the fro doctor.
Yeah, when I started, I had hair like this length. I just got it cut, but I had hair like this length. And the rules at BYU are it has to be like above your ear line and above your collar.
Well, what's cool about your hair is I know you just cut it, but your hair could be like 4 feet out and still show your ears, and your neck collar would be fine. But they'd be like, hey, man, what's up with this, kid with an afro? But I mean, I understand that too, because actually I got kicked out of school 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade. And I graduated at San Clemente, walked with my class. Everything was great with straight A's. So same thing with me. I was a little bit outside the box as far as my way of being, really, but I would have like incredible grades and get kicked out of school. But yeah, so I understand that.
Yeah, and so that kind of just like kicked me into the next gear, where I was like, okay, I'm gonna go work at this zipline course. I wanted to stay in Hawaii. And so I stayed there for about a year, just working and surfing every day.
Yeah,
like I worked.
Amazing how many waves are on Oahu. It's like you can almost always surf.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna name any names on the east side, but there's waves that aren't even on the North Shore that are really great waves.
Oahu,
yeah,
as a whole island is like, wow. There's a lot of surf there.
Every side of the island at some point during the year has great waves. So I was working at this zipline course, and this guy comes in to shoot some marketing stuff, and he had a drone. And I was like, drones were kind of new at the time.
What year was this?
And this was 2015.
So 10 years ago was the first time you literally were introduced and saw a drone.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it just had like a GoPro on it, no crazy camera, but it was great quality. And he was flying it around, and he had all these like little preset functions where it'll do like an orbit, or it'll fly in a straight line, or, different things. And I was like, that's not as hard as I thought it would be. And, so I got my tax return, and I went down to Waikiki and bought one from a guy who was a helicopter pilot. And he was actually shooting with Eric Sturman at the time. They were kind of taking turns. And Eric Sturman, for those who don't know him, he's an amazing drone pilot from the North Shore.
Oh, okay.
And he shot for the WSL for years. He might even still. Oh. And so he kind of taught me, he's like, go out there and just like spend some time flying and just have fun with it. And so I went down to Rocky Point and I would shoot. I went to...
Do you remember what the first drone was?
It was the brand was called 3DR, 3D Robotics, and the model was called the 3DR Solo. Oh. And you connect a little GoPro on it, and then it's like, you press record, and you can't control how long it's recording. It just records your whole flight. So I think the flight time at the time was like 14 minutes. And then fast forward like maybe another year of me flying around Oahu just for fun, shooting surfing and shooting different hikes that I would go on and stuff like that. I come home and I'm talking to a friend of mine who I always knew was in video production.
Okay.
A friend from church. And he kind of steered me in the right direction. He's like, you fly drones? He's like, oh, I just bought this DJI. It's this Chinese brand. He's like, I bought a DJI Phantom 3.
And this was what year?
This is 2016 now.
Okay.
And so I'm coming home. I'm done with Hawaii. And I just want to start working and doing video production stuff. So he got the drone and I started flying it. And then I get a call one day from a totally different person, a homie, who was kind of overdoing this job doing editing for some live event stuff.
Okay.
And he was doing it mostly for the International Surfing Association, the ISA. So that's what led into the Olympics.
Uh-huh.
And so he said, hey, call up this guy and they're going on this trip to Japan and maybe you could get a job doing some editing. And so I call him up, we have a chat, and he says, what do you like to do? And I'm like, I like to fly drones, I like to shoot, I like to edit, anything that you need, I'll do it. I was at that point in my life where I'm just like, give me something to do. Yeah, give me the gig, I'll do it for free, like whatever, like it doesn't matter.
Following your passion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he goes, oh, you fly drones? He's like, okay, I'm going to have you fly the drone for this International Surfing Association World Junior Championships.
And you were like, let me see if bummer.
And I was like, I've wanted to go. It's been
my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Japan is my dream. You know, I want to go to
flying
Japan.
the whole combo is just like you just went from 0 to 60, doing what you want to do, set forth in motion to pursue your passion and your dreams. You never know what magic can happen all of a sudden with timing. Seems to me like if we're looking at 2016, that's 9 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Great timing in the history of the world to look at like when it might be a good time to get introduced into being a drone pilot. I think your timing was early in the game, not totally before the whole thing, but reasonably early in the game. So good for you on the timing. And then boom, bada bing, look what happened. So now you're in Japan shooting for the ISA.
And I'm shooting, like, I think the kids that were on the team at the time from the U.S. were Cade Madsen, Taro Watanabe, Cole Hauschman was on the team.
Okay.
And, you know, it was a great experience. It was so fun, and it was grueling. It was, 9 days of 10-hour days, because the ISA, the way they have their schedule set up, they're doing like 5 heats of repecharge before you actually lose. So it's like just surf, surf, surf. But I love surfing. I grew up surfing. So it didn't feel like work for me. And fast forward from there, it just kind of like started steamrolling, and I got into shooting snowboarding, skateboarding, Spartan races, triathlons, and it was always based off of live event coverage. And I loved live event coverage because you leave the event and there's no editing. You just walk away from it.
Shoot and go.
Yeah.
Wow.
When you wrap, it's like the final.
You're done.
You wrap up your cables, you go have some dinner, and then you're
free as a bird.
Yeah, you're on vacation now for a couple
But
days.
the other side of that, tell me if I'm wrong, would be the pressure of live. You're done when you're done, but then when you're doing it, it seems like there'd be a certain amount of pressure. I'm just saying, that just seems to me like the one thing about editing later is you can edit. Mm-hmm. Right?
That's
I'm just
so
reading
true.
into that a little bit.
Yeah, the pressure was on, and I kind of learned how to relax, and like there was one director, because so when you're shooting a live event and you're a drone pilot, your controller is connected through a cable that goes to a truck where they have all of the camera angles up on the screen. And so there's a director there pushing, okay, go camera A, or go camera one, you're live. Camera 2, looking at your shot. Okay, camera 2, you're live. Drone.
Oh, switcher.
Give us So he's got a headset on and we're all listening to him. Proper etiquette is you don't talk while he's doing his thing, because he's literally like, the Wizard of Oz, just in this room, just pressing all the buttons and he's an editor. He's live
making you
editor.
guys look good. So he's live switching.
Yeah.
Rich is, not after the fact editing, but live switching is a whole amazing thing in
Yeah.
itself, right? You got to be a wizard to do that.
So, you know,
It's like a pinball wizard
Yeah.
behind, the keyboard for the live switching for like when you're doing live events. I mean, what an awesome relationship to have you and whoever else is shooting. How many drone pilots would there be when you were shooting drone?
So for these, I was the only drone pilot.
Oh, but then a lot of guys on, different camera
But
angles.
there's guys, down the beach shooting. There's a guy on a roaming cam that's like, he's cruising the coast, going up to the teams.
Yeah, like the color commentators, like, in a sense, like what Strider does for the WSL, or,
100%.
Then they got the guys in the studio and the guy in the water and the guy on the beach and then the drone and this and that. So that guy's a switcher.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. I don't think a lot of the public thinks about that guy, but inside of the production end of it, we know how important that guy would be, right?
Yeah, we all love to watch the webcasts, but we don't realize how much work and how many people are involved in those webcasts. To do a WSL webcast, there's probably 15 people that are just involved in the broadcast
production,
plus
on-site.
everyone else that are contributing to making it a live broadcast and a television show, basically, for us to watch.
A live television show from all over the world showing us surfing or whatever sport you're into, which has gotten to be so amazing when you think just in the last few years how much better and better it keeps getting better, to where you're just going, wow. I mean, like right now, the Portugal contest.
Oh yeah, I was watching it this morning. And the waves were terrible, and I was still just like, I can't get
glued
enough.
Because it's live energy. When we were growing up, all we got was surf mags that came out 2 to 3 months after the fact. So like someone won pipe and you wouldn't see the footage until if they won pipe in December, like you really wouldn't even see the mags till February at the earliest with the pictures, right? Yeah. But so it was just all taught word of mouth, and then once in a while there'd be like something like surfing was on like Wide World of Sports or something, and that was such a big moment for us. But what an amazing trajectory in the history of the world of media and gear and technology and where we are today. I don't know that people who are younger necessarily understand how much that has been done for them. They just grew up into it, right?
I'm fortunate enough to work currently right now with one of the guys that started a lot of that, and I've heard so much of the history from him about how they would record it like it's live. There was a director, but they're recording everything and then cutting it to a tape. And then that tape would so it would be recorded as live, but they could still have the freedom to edit a little bit.
And who is this you're talking about?
This was Alan Gibby.
That's what I thought. Yeah. And isn't he related in some way?
So my sister is married to his nephew.
Okay, so there's
my uncle is married to his wife's sister. Jeff is married to his wife's sister. And so yeah, he's been a mentor for me, and it's great to have, for anybody that's listening that's thinking about getting into this.
He's a big name in the history of action sports broadcast.
Yeah.
Right? What did he, at one point he was doing, what network was it called?
His company was called Dynacom.
Dynacom, yeah. There was a point when Dynacom just ran the whole, and
Office
they run
in
all
San
the
Clemente.
PSAAs.
Yeah.
And they just did, they produced a lot of media connected with surfing. So, interesting that you're connected somewhere through there as family, but at the same time he's your mentor.
Yeah, he's been a great mentor for me. And
cool.
And
is he still going, or is he kind of retired?
He's still going, yeah, but he's kind of stepped away from the action sports world a little bit.
Okay.
But he's still doing his thing, and he's just a great guy. And,
I've always heard about him all the years. He's kind of one of the godfathers of action sports media. You would have to really say, right? Yeah, if not, I'm going to say the guy, but one of, right? So interesting that but your connection with him and as a mentor, and here you are. So we're back to what was it like? Where were we at now in the trajectory? 2017 by now?
Yeah. So we're like 2017, 2018, 2019. I'm traveling all over the place shooting drone stuff, and I'm just like, man, and everybody comes up to me, dude, you got the sickest job. Like, you just sit under this tent and watch the show while you're flying your drone. And I'm like, yeah, it's basically like I'm playing video games for 10 hours, but at the same time, it is stressful, having that pressure. Yeah, you gotta perform. And for me, I'm a perfectionist. And so if I'm shooting a wave and I'm following the action and a surfer goes out of my shot, like that's just, it's just like chalkboard, like nails on a chalkboard type of thing. And so, you know, I'm hyper aware for 10 hours, constantly flying, making sure that I can get the great scenic shots, get the great action shots, come up with unique angles and not just shoot the same thing over and over and over again.
Sure.
Give the audience
Keep it
something,
fresh. Cool.
something interesting to look at. So, and then in 2020, kind of.
Oh boy, here we go. I feel like we're going into COVID.
Oh,
right?
Man, COVID.
All of a sudden, the world gets hit by COVID. Literally 5 years ago, almost today.
Yeah.
Right? And then what a shift was that like? What was that all about?
Well, I was
Were you living
here.
Yeah,
I was living right there at the time. And you know, both of us were kind of like, what is every day
this?
was something new. Every day, like, do we go outside? Are we sick? Are we not sick? What's going on? Can I go to the store? Can I not go to the store? But at the same time, we're kind of like, are we both buying all of this? Because I don't know.
I don't know. None of us knew. We were just trying to know, and we couldn't know.
And you kind of had to
Even
be
still,
open-minded.
I don't think we know.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Maybe we'll never know.
We'll never know, like, all the questions are where did blah, blah, blah. I don't really want to go into the COVID thing, but you know, yeah, what an interesting time. If we look back 5 years ago, wow.
Well, because what did it do to me? Well, all of a sudden, all of these events got put on hold. And I was in February of 2020, I was shooting at the Dew Tour Copper Mountain in Colorado. So it was a snow ski event. They had slope style pipe and I think they had a park that year, but they might have not had a park. But anyway, and I got this international crowd and I got sick. And I remember I came back here and I was just in my room for 2 weeks, just sick as a dog. And then the events kind of started to slow down, and they're like, the ISA is kind of like, well, we're kind of gonna postpone this stuff. But then I got this kind of silver lining where this new thing for me had opened up called Formula Drift. And the first year I did it was 2020. And
I think I remember when you got that job. What is Formula Drift?
So it's a car drifting event where there's these cars that all battle against each other. So there's a lead car and a chase car. And then they go and they do a battle and then they swap positions and the chase becomes the lead becomes the chase, and they're scored on by judges, 3 judges, on different criteria. It's line, angle, and style.
Are they allowed to crash in it? It's not like a...
So the goal is kind of like, okay, there's
like
like a wall here and the lead car is trying to get as close to the wall with the most angle. So you don't want to be like just barely drifting. They want you to be on it and like have the angle. But then there's style too, as to like how you...
That sounds fun.
Yeah. It's
scary, but fun.
I mean, these cars, some of the examples of the cars are like Corvettes, Mustangs, some crazy BMWs that are really maneuverable.
And their speed...
It's not really about speed.
Because they're sliding.
Yeah.
Drifting, but sliding. It's drifting and sliding.
So
it's not really super fast, just super controlled sliding.
It's literally controlled chaos. It's like these guys are just whipping it in. And sometimes they are going like, 80, 90, 100 miles an hour and then whipping it into this turn. And the chase guy, his job is to just to mimic what the guy in the front's doing. So get really close to him and have, like, if the guy's not really drifting properly, then he kind of has to not drift properly and kind of mimic that same style. And so I was learning, I had never shot anything like that before. I had shot some rally car stuff before this, but never a road drifting type thing. And it kind of opened up this whole new thing for me, and I just started traveling. We went to 4 different stops in 2020, and they did a double header at each stop. So it was basically like 2 events per stop.
Oh, nice.
No fans, nobody there. It was all broadcast, and we crushed it. We did a great job, and it's kind of evolved since then. So I don't fly the FPV drones, which the FPV guy puts on the goggles. He's got this tiny little drone that goes super fast and can very easily crash into something else.
Oh, shit.
Like some of the FPV pilots that I work with, those drones are going down at times. Some a cone flies up and hits the drone, and boom, it's out.
Wow. Can those? But how much does one of those cost, you think?
It depends, because those guys mostly build their own drones. So it's more so about their parts and their time.
Interesting. Wow.
So like probably somewhere around $400 or $500 for a drone.
They build it, they make it custom. It's super fast. Wow. That's so moving forward from that stage. I feel like we're heading into, as we approach now, or 5 years ago, we're moving into kind of where we're at in the last few years, or what's going on lately.
So I'm still doing the Formula Drift. It starts up next month in Long Beach. Still doing that as like my kind of bread and butter of what I love to do. I also shoot triathlons. Triathlons are super cool.
You ever do like those like mud run, kind of like adventure run things, eco run, those kind of off-road human races? You ever do anything like that?
Yeah, so I've shot the Spartan races before.
Yeah, there you go, yeah.
And it's like a run mixed with an obstacle course of, Spartan-related things. So they have to throw a javelin at one point. They have to, hoist this heavy dead ball thing, and they're just kind of like pulling. It's like a pulley system, and then so as they're running, they hit these different obstacles, and if they don't do the obstacle correctly, they have to do like 50 burpees or something like that there. So these guys are just complete athletes. They're gnarly.
Definitely.
So those
are gnarly.
Those are fun, yeah. But I still shoot, snowboarding, skateboarding, surfing.
And you do that for like an organization, or you just do it on your own?
I'm not doing so much of the ISA stuff these days. I still love surfing, but I kind of got to this point where it was tough for me to sit there and watch surfing, because I always wanted to be surfing. So when I see other people doing something that I want to do, it kind of like takes a little bit of the fun out of it.
Yeah, because you want to be surfing.
Yeah. But I love cars, but I'm not
trying to be a car racer.
I respect those guys and their profession and what they do, but I can't do it.
Yeah, it's much easier for you to shoot that. Not only is it an awesome sport, but if you're at the beach and you want to be surfing, there's a little bit of a love-hate relationship with that. I can understand that for sure.
So, but I don't just do the live broadcast stuff. I also do, branding shoots, shooting for construction companies, roofing companies, kind of more things that can keep me local. I love to travel still.
Sure, but it's not too bad to make some money around the corner either.
Yeah.
Right, without having to jump on planes, trains, and automobiles to get yourself wherever you need to be. I think both obviously have their attraction, but I get what you're saying is nice to be able to do both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, I can surf in the morning and then go to a job, or go to a job and then surf in the evening. I still love surfing. That is my biggest passion.
Because I know you're living up in like
Huntington Beach,
Huntington area, and then so when you're waking up and surfing in the morning, you checking Huntington obviously on a daily basis.
Yeah, I surf river jetties in Newport, just like Brookhurst right there, kind of
I
on
like
the border.
That zone. Yeah, a lot of good peaks right there,
and then
not
pier.
Crowded.
Yeah,
I mean Brookhurst, no one surfs there.
No,
I wouldn't say no one, but I mean basically it's very uncrowded.
It has like its times. There's still like some surf teams, like high school teams and stuff that will go down there and practice. But
it's not like the pier, the cliffs, or whatever. It's got a. I'm familiar with that area. I like it a lot too. Yeah, it's a good place to check. Plus, it's wide open to swell, especially in the winter. It's just way more swell. It's so wide exposed. Whereas down here in San Clemente, we're in a bay. We just get smoked in the winter.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more swell up there this time of year.
And then it's like 5 foot in Huntington is 2 foot in San Clemente.
Yeah, and I've noticed since I've been up there, I'm like, oh, Rex Hennings is driving up from San Clemente to come and surf here, or Nico Coley is coming up. And even Taro, he lives up in Malibu, and he's driving down.
Well, it's so wide open, and it's kind of a mecca.
And it's cool to see all my friends. It's they all have to come to surf contests in Huntington.
What kind of boards you riding out? Like, what do you ride? Like, if you're paddling out, like, what are you riding? What kind of board?
I still ride Mayhems. Okay. I mean, Lost Surfboards, cool. San Clemente brand. It's my friends work there. I surf with Matt Biolos all the time. I do some work for them too, some editing, some shooting.
Cool.
And I ride mostly the round nose fish.
Okay.
But
like how big? Like, give me the dimensions of your current surfboard.
I think my round nose fish is 5'4", 19, 2.33. It's like somewhere around 26 to 27 liters.
Okay, and you weigh how much?
I'm 150.
Okay, yeah.
So
Those are interesting. Just nice to see where people are at with current design and what they're doing. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're gonna expose us to some video you surfing so we can see what
for
we're
sure.
talking about,
I'm still a clip whore, and I still want to get all the clips I can. Mostly because like I just love video, and if everybody loves to see themselves surf, even if they weren't surfing that great, they want to see
learn.
That's how I got started with video. I would literally beg my dad. I'd be like, we're going to T Street. I'm going to set up the camera. I'll get everything dialed for you, and then just film my waves. And then I would go home, put them in iMovie, and be like, okay, my arms is kind of funky here. Or like, why are my legs so straight? Like, I need to bend keep my body lower center of gravity. And then, me and my brother, before we'd go surf, we were always analyzing Dane Reynolds. And sometimes we'd even watch it in a mirror so we could see him as a goofy foot, because both of us are goofy. Cool. And so
that's interesting.
We're like, oh, Dane does this. And so we're going to try and do that. Or
well, what an awesome surfer to kind of
try to emulate him.
Have you heard much of what he's doing? Like, and here we are in 2025. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, he's got Chapter 11 TV, so he has they put out tons of cool videos and stuff. I just saw they released a video called like Shit Wave 6 or something like that.
Okay. So he's still ripping.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's incredible. Like his whole, like how good he was, and then his kind of take on pro surfing, like similar but different to like say maybe a Clay Marzo or someone that, totally different story, but like super talented people, like a Rostovich kind of, these people that somehow, Jamie O'Brien, I mean, these people who kind of figure out a different way to make a living with their incredible talent.
Yeah.
And they don't just, go, well, I got to go on tour to make it on tour and be one of those, those kind of tour ponies. Nothing against guys on tour, it's incredible, the tour. But it's just so cool to see people kind of find a different way to make a living that are really talented, like Dane Reynolds. I mean, just come on.
Come on. Dane is your favorite surfer.
Yeah.
It's like everybody just worshipped him for years, and he just had that attitude like, I don't care. Like,
he totally was the I don't care
I'm
guy.
from Ventura. If I didn't surf, I'd be a tugboat captain or something like that,
Yeah, it's a trip how those guys that don't really care so much, and then when they're so talented, that can matter, because if you're not that talented, you don't care. No one else cares either. Yeah. Okay, but when you're Dane Reynolds or someone like that, some of the other people I mentioned just come to mind. In that kind of area, I feel like that area produces, like Tom Curran always had that kind of over it vibe. Bobby Martinez obviously has,
one of my favorites.
Incredible surfer, one of my favorites of all time. Awesome dude in every way. Just love Bobby. But, their take on it up there, it's a kind of a thing up there. I think Dane represents that really well.
It's very blue collar,
Yes.
Like, hey, we're black wetsuits, white boards, none of this white wetsuit, yellow board.
Yeah,
they're
not trying to be the banner for the next. They're kind of have a real over it vibe, because I feel like also there's a lot of waves there, a lot of really good waves in that district, and they kind of just laugh at the whole like glam, pro-ho, just the whole thing. They just kind of have that almost like a 70s vibe.
Yeah.
So I've always really appreciated that about them. I think that Dane super is the guy with the flag, their flag, I was just saying that because I haven't really heard much lately, but I don't know.
He's got a surf shop, and he has a clothing brand, Former, and then he's got his media side of things with Chapter 11 TV, and they put out some funny,
there's some comedy.
For me, it's all about storytelling. That's what Alan has always taught me. It's like, learn how to tell a story. It doesn't matter how good your camera is. It doesn't matter if you know all of the settings on your camera. Learn how to tell a story. And so that's what I tried to incorporate with my drone stuff, is like, okay, I'm establishing where we're at here. A nice wide shot, whether it's, I'm shooting in Huntington and I'm coming down Main Street, down the pier, and then turn off. And then now we're at the beach and we're at the contest site. Like there's some foreshadowing or some forward thinking, so to speak, with how you tell a story.
Yeah.
And so,
no, that's awesome. That's definitely what draws people in. I mean, even today, we want to do the same thing. We want to talk to you. We want to talk about your life. We want to tell that story by way of showing the audience visuals of this experience of being Aaron Jessee with the drone pilot extraordinaire.
Yeah. And
I mean, it's just really cool. I don't know too many people that do that. So,
And, thinking back when you said that, when you're like, so what year did you, sometimes we get so involved with things as time goes on that we need to stop
and
think
take perspective.
back and be like, oh, I never thought that this would take me here, and look at where I'm at now. And I feel like that kind of encourages me to now think about, okay, in 10 years, where do I want this to be? Am I going to be in Hollywood shooting for, some
Spielberg.
Movies? Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like,
it's possible.
There's so many different avenues that you can take with this.
And it's true. I believe like once you really kind of just set forth on your passion, I feel to me we have similar belief system in terms of as I was being raised, my family always taught, just do what you're passionate about. Do it if you do it, just do it so much you would do it for free, but just because you love it. And then from that love, try to do it better and better and better. One day people pay you to do what you love to do.
Yeah.
And then from there, that's the start point of a new journey where, who knows where that takes you. But if you don't really go after your passion, which most likely the world's not going to pay you day one, like you pick it up as a hobby and then you move forward with it because you commit to that in a sense, So, I mean, it's in a sense, what we're doing here today comes from my passion, in a sense of following this journey to tell stories through, TV and film. So the cool thing about podcasting is it gives us, it's just such a window into real life stories. It's just so intriguing to me, like just here today, being able to hear your story and bringing in different people to hear their stories. I feel like if I can bring an audience, interesting stories, it really taps into what you're just saying Alan taught you, whether you're doing it through drone, whether you're doing it through podcast or feature films or TV shows. All we're doing is people trying to go, is there a nugget of interest here?
Yeah, it's that human connection, right? We want to, sometimes we're just kind of like floating through trying to figure things out. But then when you connect with somebody and you're like, I like what they're doing. I want to hear more about how they got here. Like where, talking about Dane Reynolds, like where did he come from? He started surfing when he was like a teenager, from what I understand. And then you get these kids now that can see all of these stories unfold at a young age and log on to YouTube and learn all this information.
Jeez.
And
it's incredible.
Like you had to ask people back then when I was a kid, and you had to, go out of your comfort zone and be like, KV,
hey,
what
was that like?
What was it like to, be on San Clemente Locals? Like, tell me about that, And
that was an interesting time.
And
that was an interesting time.
Talking about that, I know we talked about it earlier, but that was like San Clemente Locals was my like Bible as a kid. I was like, I would put that movie on and I just watch and I'll be like, man, T Street's so freaking good. That must be one of the best waves in the world.
Oh my God. Well, when you're a Grom, I could see where that might be the case. Yeah. San Clemente Locals was an interesting time, just in that sense of what the filmmaker Jeff knew and what he was doing, which was really unique at the time in the sense of here we had this filmmaker in town that was truly independent. He shot his own stuff. He edited his own stuff. He had no boss. He got to work creatively on his own vision. And then at one point he decided to kind of tell a story about our town, which, as we know, is an iconic town. But it's a classic little funny little place that you could just drive right by and sneeze and not see. But and you don't know when you pull off the freeway what you're driving into, because a lot of characters here, especially back then, a lot of characters. So I think what he saw was he'd like to document all these characters in this town and the waves and the stories that there was, So yeah, that was a fun time.
That was so cool. And, I also had the connection to it because I had two of my uncles were in it as well. And I just, I don't know, man. That just,
right. So
my uncle Jason.
Jason Jessee is your uncle.
Yeah.
Right?
And then Jeff was in it too.
Yep. Jeff was in it. I remember seeing him, I think, catch a left at lowers on it.
I think so.
Yeah. He got a left at lowers.
Yeah.
And so obviously we know Jason Jessee being your uncle is, I would say, a reasonably world famous pro skateboarder extraordinaire to the extreme.
I always looked up to him as a kid too. And I still remember my family was living in South Carolina. I think I was like 8 years old.
Okay.
And I had told my dad I want a skateboard. And then next thing I know, in the mail comes this box with a full skate setup and like a t-shirt and all this stuff from Consolidated Skateboards. And it actually, and I don't think he knew this at the time, but the deck was this artwork from The Giving Tree, the book, The Giving Tree,
Okay.
by Shel Silverstein.
Okay.
And that was like one of my favorite books as a kid. And I just looked at this board and I was like, this is like the greatest day of my life. Like this, I've made it now. I can die a happy little boy. No, but he always told me too, he's like, style is everything. Like it doesn't matter what you do if you're not doing it well. So
Nice.
that's kind of the mantra that I've always had with anything that I do with surfing or skateboarding or whatever. It's like, don't try the crazy tricks and stuff are cool, but if it doesn't look good, then I don't know if it's worth all that effort. But.
I mean, if we're relating that to local surfers, I would say Archie fits that so perfectly, you know, like, you know, he wasn't really doing the kind of airs that like, you know, some of these like skateboard looking airs or whatever. He just did these really functional airs like to get you from point A to point B, and the level of style. It's just, I just think Archie just comes to mind right out of the gate with that, with surfing at that time, style, function, incredible, just right. So yeah,
I think when I was a kid, Archie was pretty much living full time in Hawaii, so I didn't get to like see him that much when I was a kid. But I would see him in magazines, and he would do these backside turns, and I remember his body was so contorted,
so torqued,
but so like oververt almost,
totally oververt and torqued and just incredible.
I'm like, how does he how does he fit his body into that position? Like he's just
incredible,
amazing
style. Yeah. And I've taught up this subject a little bit. I like to talk to a lot of friends about who do they think, say for instance, that their top 5 favorite surfers of all time.
Yeah.
Right. And like for me, it's just undebatable that he would be in my top 5. It's just, you know, and who would that be? It's a pretty interesting discussion, you know. It's a really hard discussion.
I mean, I can't like name them off in order.
Right.
But I would say for one of my favorite surfers is Rob Machado.
Okay.
I always loved the style, but like he was blowing tail and, you know, just surfing pipe, amazing. Like he has to be in the top somewhere.
Okay. So let's just throw him in your top 5.
Yeah.
You know
and
what I mean?
then for sure, John is one of my tops. John has to be up there because he's a freak.
Yeah, he's a freak.
And
at everything, you know, it's everything. It's like huge, medium, pipe, barrel, carve, you know, just trick. I mean, the guy is just kind of a wizard.
Yeah.
And especially, he's not a small man.
No, he's a big
He's a
dude.
pretty broad, like you just look at him, you're like, wow, he's built like,
the
you know,
fact,
like more than you realize. He doesn't look as buffed as he is, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of does, but he doesn't, you know what I mean? It's a little bit like, whoa. It's like brother kind of, you know, same thing.
Yeah,
like,
he's got a...
He's filled out.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, it's a man.
Beefy.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
So when they do all the, you know, some of the gnarly stuff, you're like, wow. I mean, not so much John. I mean, when they do the big West Oz, big cars, you know, you can see that, right? But I'm saying at the same time, when he's on a 3-foot wave and he punts some gnarly air, you're like, wow.
Crazy.
So yeah, so say Rob Machado, you throw a couple out there, you know, John.
It's really tough to leave out the GOAT.
I'm just gonna say it's probably hard not to have Kelly Slater in your top 5.
Yeah, Kelly's definitely in there, and especially growing up and like seeing his career. Like, okay, so I started surfing in 2000. Yeah, 2000.
Okay,
and so Kelly was still kind of like, I think that was kind of white wetsuit Kelly era, maybe a little bit later.
Was that when he did Black and White?
It might have been
video?
around that time.
Yeah, okay.
Well, that was one of the first surf movies that I saw once I started surfing.
I think that was before that, but yeah, somewhere.
I think
in there.
It was 1999 was Black and White.
Okay.
But yeah, he has to be up there because, you know, going through my surfing experience and seeing him like in New York do that crazy air, and then at Bell's doing another crazy air, and like buzzer beater situations, crazy barrels that he shouldn't have made, crazy turns at J-Bay. It's like,
what's that when you call someone very, very, the word clutch?
Yeah.
Like he comes through in the clutch, like so many situations, but on top of that, his pedigree with 11-time world, you know, he's got the biggest numbers in the history of the sport. So and his style's amazing. You know, I personally liked his style best when he was on Merrick's. I thought his flow, like how he just, it was kind of the glass slipper era, right? Hardly anyone could ride those boards, but he rode it the best. And the board was just in the water. And then he got to kind of some of these wider, fatter boards and the quads. I don't know. I feel like he got fast. But I feel like, I don't know. That's the era that I like and that of him as far as when I watch the style, right? But yeah, so it's hard not to think of him. I don't know if there's any others that come to mind. No big deal. I'm just curious. It's just kind of an spontaneous question.
One guy I cannot leave out. He's my favorite surfer on tour right now. Is Yago Dora. Yago's, I mean, the airs that he does, the turns that he does, the fact that he can get barreled just as good as anything else. Yeah, it's. I can't leave him out, and also I'm goofy, so I'm partial to the goofy team.
It's funny you should say that. I feel the same. I'm a regular foot, and probably my top 5 has mostly regular foots. But a lot of talk about Yago Dora right now in the last year or two, how he's come, what he's been doing, getting better and better and better. People talk about him. Tell me if I'm wrong. There's a little bit of like a blend of like Jerry Lopez with some sort of new air guy. Like it's just like he's got everything. And from what I know, he's just a cool guy. Like a lot of people I know that know him think he's just really not arrogant. He's super laid back, but his talent is coming on strong. Last year we could see that for sure.
And yeah, I've had the opportunity just through some of my friends that work at Lost to meet and talk to his dad too, and his dad is just the coolest guy ever.
Yeah, and isn't it a trip? Isn't he also coaching Jack Robinson?
Yeah,
that's an interesting. That's just so cool. I've heard this again and again and again. All about Yago, his dad, the relationship now with Jack, the whole thing. Yeah. It's pretty cool. Anyone else that would, just putting it on you, Mister?
I think that's 4 there. Okay. So the last one that I would pick is, just off the top of my head, I have this. I'm sure I would change this maybe if I had more time to think about it.
You don't have to be locked in. This is just kind of throwing it
out
there.
I'd say Mason Ho, just purely for the fun and just the carefree nature. But also you see him surf and you're like, the guy's a freak. He can do airs incredible. And he doesn't even use a pad.
I know.
He's just a freak.
He is a freak, no question. He's having more fun than anybody.
Yeah.
And the dynasty, his whole lineage, the whole thing, what he's done. Obviously, we all know Uncle Derek, Father Mike, just the whole Michael Ho, all reverence. I was just talking to Shane the other day, and he was saying, I'm just trying to keep up with Uncle Mike, who's out surfing pipe right now, and I'm at backdoor, and Mike's like my age or right in there, and he's just surfing every day and still doing it. Not many people doing that.
Yeah, I was with my buddy Gian Bernini. He works he's the team manager at Lost, and we're hanging out, and Uncle Mike calls him up and goes, Gian, I need to put it in order. I just broke my magic board at Pipe. Like I need to do this, and Gian's like, okay, we'll get it dialed in for you. I mean, the guy's just as surf crazed as he probably was 30 years ago.
Definitely. It's incredible. And not just surf crazed, but ripping and getting the best wave of the day sometimes. And, you understand why he would get a wave because who he is and it's all that. But he's in the lineup a factor at my age. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I don't know exactly how old Mike is, but I think he's right there with me somewhere.
But going back to in and out of the water, I feel like that plays a big role into who my favorite surfers are because you might surf really good, but if you're not that cool when you hit the beach, it's just kind of like...
I'm not going to be that stoked on you.
And I don't want to name any names, but Brazil.
Well, we don't get to.
No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, there's really cool people from all over the world. There's really lame people from all over the world. So we can't really kind of categorize in terms of any sort of geography. But we have our favorite people because they are someone we gravitate to personally as well, right? I feel like that's true with movie stars. I feel like it's true with pretty much anything. Like they could be the most talented person, but they're kind of an arrogant dick. You're probably not going to be stoked on them, The combination of being a cool, kind of down-to-earth person. I want to say kind of if you're an actor, I would think Matthew McConaughey would probably be one of those guys.
One of my favorites.
Just from what I hear, he's just a cool off-screen. He's on screen. I've heard that about Brad Pitt as well. Super talented, but I never heard he was a dick.
Matthew McConaughey, I just listened to his audiobook, or I guess it's a book too, but it's called Green Lights.
Cool.
And I just became the biggest fan. I wanted to go rewatch every movie he's been in. Maybe not all the rom-coms, but at least Interstellar. I went and watched Interstellar.
Okay,
after that one.
What's that one he did? failure to launch was in that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like,
I was
okay,
like,
Chief.
"Oh."
But I think he made some money on those, and it allowed him to
For
do
sure.
some other stuff like Mud
Yeah.
or different things he did that were like, wow, this is really deep, but probably not that commercial. So I think he's smart, some of the things he did do. But what's good is he did the rom-com era, but then he broke out of that, reinvented himself. I think it was with Lincoln Lawyer, and just kind of showed everyone like all this drama or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's just really it's a pleasure to talk to you, man. I'm stoked to have you in. Just because we talk once don't mean we might not have you again, because it seems like we could talk about all kinds of cool stuff forever. So just want to say that's a really interesting topic. And I think we got to cut and run and go check the waves, mister.
Yeah, it's
all
time
right.
to surf.
So thanks for tuning in today. Another episode of Talk to the Doctor here with extraordinary, unique drone pilot Aaron Jessee. Thank you very much.
Cut.